They hung in there as long as they could, but in the end, Sixers fall to the Milwaukee Bucks in the second half. A big part of that, some other things as well. We'll talk about it all. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers postgame as the Sixers drop tonight's game to the Milwaukee Bucks by a final score this evening, 114-105, alongside Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck. I'm Devon Givens, Brianna producing. All of you in the chat, as always, good to be with you postgame. We wish we were talking about something a little better because they gave you an opportunity to feel good about how this game might ultimately end up.
The rare good vibes half.
Yeah, but in the end, man, it just did not happen. So we'll get into all of what took place tonight. Sixers back on the floor at home on Saturday against Charlotte. Maybe they can get a win there. They are now 36-30 on the season as they continue to go up, go down, go up, go down, and they're getting a little bit of help from some others as we highlighted Chicago and watching them and all of that stuff. They lost tonight too, so that's a good thing for them. That's how far things have dropped for the Sixers, where we have to worry about teams like the Chicago Bulls. But let's get to it. In this one,
sad state of affairs.
Yes, it is.
Fellas.
Yes, it is. And in this one, once again, Tyrese Maxey, he did have 30, but the problem was he had 29 after 3 quarters.
Yeah.
Only scored 1 point in the fourth quarter. Not his fault. Needed more help from his teammates in that fourth quarter to get over the hump. Kyle, what were you seeing there in the fourth quarter that changed? Of course, with him starting on the bench, but then as the game continued to play out, Milwaukee made some shots. Sixers made some shots. They were trading shots back and forth, but a big run by the Bucks there in the fourth quarter to really kind of put themselves in the driver's seat.
I actually want to start somewhere that I normally hate going to.
I was curious how long this would take you to
I
get
thought
to.
the officiating was an abomination in that game. And I think the dichotomy between the calls that Tyrese Maxey did not get, where he's getting hacked, he's getting hooked on drives, he's getting beaten up pretty good, and could not get a whistle. Meanwhile, and I say this as someone who, I think the Giannis travels all the time thing is overblown. I think there are a lot of people who watch the NBA who don't understand what a gather step is, and that's a discussion for another day. But there were several times tonight where Giannis is clearly establishing a pivot foot, then establishing a second pivot foot. And it's like, all right, man, you can't just make up rules as you go for this guy, which is what it seemed like they were doing. So I thought that was horrendous. And I thought, honestly, one of the big inflection points in the fourth quarter, not that I thought the Sixers played well enough in that quarter to win, but I thought one of the big moments was I believe it was a 3-point game at that point. Giannis gets away with a travel, not only gets away with a travel, Mo Bamba then picks up a foul call after the travel has happened. And instead of turnover, Sixers go the other way, have a chance to cut it to a single point potentially. The Bucks stretched the lead to 5, and they never really got that close. It was as close as 3 the rest of the way. But that just felt like a snapshot of the entire night where, look, the Bucks are going to get more calls. They're going to get more whistles. They'll go to the free throw line more, because Giannis is a freight train and just blows through people and deserves to go to the line quite a bit. He doesn't need to be assisted by the refs and have travels completely ignored in the middle of the game.
But my issue, and I'm like you, I don't like complaining about the refs. I think it's something that all fan bases do in every game, and it's overdone. That being said, it wasn't just Giannis. And Giannis is tough to call a game for, but that travel wasn't borderline. That wasn't a gather step. That was clearly a travel.
That's an easy one, yeah.
Yeah, but there was a b-ball Paul double dribble late in the third quarter where clearly the ball was poked away from him and he gathered it back and then went. There was a foul on Maxey right there at the end where I forget who it was, but had his hand all over Maxey's arm as he was driving down the paint. There was all kinds of calls. It wasn't just Giannis getting away with push-offs. I think when Giannis gets away with stuff, it's more the push-offs with his offhand or his shoulder, more so than a gather step that I have a problem with. But there were calls all up and down the floor on all kinds of players that just weren't going the Sixers' way, and it was very, very frustrating. And specifically, the frustrating ones come to me for Maxey, because I feel like he's at a point where he should get more respect than he is. I think he got a number of calls. He could have gone 4 or 5 more times the free throw line again.
Yeah. And in a close game, it just completely changes. One, it can change the momentum at that moment, but also when you get down to the end of the game and they're going back and forth, 3-point game, 5-point game, those little things add up.
Yeah, it was a 9-0 run. The Bucks took over a 91-87 lead after the Sixers led for a good portion of the game. They go up 96-90. The Sixers then come back with a 5-0 run there to cut the lead after going down 100-92. They get it to 5 there with 3:52 to play. And not only could it change the momentum in terms of how the game is played there because of certain players on the floor, how they can defend. You never know who's picking up that foul on those drives where Tyrese Maxey is going to the basket. Sure, it's his initial defender, but then there were help defenders that came over. He was making those tough shots with 2 people on him and not a call. Could have been Brook Lopez, who was very good at protecting the rim. Could have been Giannis Antetokounmpo, who picks up a bad foul, a cheap foul somewhere along the way, that they have to be careful for how they defend the Sixers and Maxey down the stretch. And with those types of things, where Maxey has it rolling, he does deserve those calls. It doesn't matter necessarily.
He's not a rookie anymore,
no, he's
man.
Not.
He just
he's
made
a
an all-star
fourth-year player,
team.
made the all-star team, and he shouldn't have to continue to raise his arms and ask where the foul call is after they knock him to his seat. And it was very, very clear. And to your point, to both of your point, Giannis doesn't need help. He's that good. So when he does make a travel and the official is standing about 3 feet away from him and is very, very easy to call, the entire Sixers bench is jumping up. Sometimes those things happen where the other officials gather and say, hey, he traveled. Ball goes the other way. You're down 3. Yes, you can go and score a bucket to cut it to 1. You can also go down there and score a bucket to tie the game at 3 if they make a 3-pointer. That's how good Tyrese Maxey was tonight. So while you don't want to go to the officials, it's very clear there that that's how things were also a part of the game, a part of how things turned around in that fourth quarter. The Sixers lost that quarter in a big way, 34-22. But Maxey should have at least gotten the same calls as Giannis. He may not be as physical, but with his speed and going into that contact and being so good that they have to defend him a certain way, he should have got the same type of whistle that Giannis did.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up Brook Lopez. There was a play where Maxey got downhill. Lopez used one arm to hit Maxey's chest, and the other one was not vertical. It's coming down on Maxey. Neither one of the pieces of contact was called. So, look, I don't want to spend a whole segment.
And we say that because Giannis
officials.
ends with 4 fouls. Brook Lopez ends with 3. You never know how that plays out when he's driving to the basket.
And also, look, Tyrese did not sustain the scoring for 4 quarters, and that is part of it, right? It's a reason, not the reason, but one of the reasons that they lost tonight. One of the ways you sustain scoring is by getting calls. When the well goes dry on the step back threes, the side step threes, all that stuff, you get to the basket, you put yourself on the line, you make 2, you get easy ones, and then you take that confidence and you bring it elsewhere to the mid-range, to the 3-point line. And so it has a lot of different effects, but I wouldn't say it's the reason that they lost. I don't even know that there's a singular reason they lost. I think, if anything, it's that they don't have the talent right now, right? Like Tyrese plays a good game. You get good contributions from Campaign, Buddy Hield, Paul Reed on defense, certainly not on offense. He struggled there tonight. Mo Bamba hit a 3, but Tobias up until the fourth quarter is missing. Kelly Oubre had a bad game. And the margin for error is just really thin for this team. So if you don't get from your high volume guys really good performances, and Nurse doesn't say, all right, I'm going to ride Campaign and these guys who are hot, it's going to be really hard to beat a team like this.
Losing the fourth quarter 34-22, where they shot 40%, the Sixers did, to the Bucks 69% from the floor on 11 of 16 shooting. So that's a big piece of it. And the free throw difference there. At the end, it didn't count as much, of course, but 10 for 11. They weren't missing their free throws in the fourth quarter getting to the line. So if you want to look at anything there, Sixers had 7 fouls where the Bucks had 3. Again, down the stretch, 2 more fouls that really, but 5 to 3 there. And when you have Maxey scoring 29 through the first 3 quarters, you needed somebody to maybe step up there in that fourth quarter to give him a little bit of help after the attention that he was drawing. They went to a zone. Then they started going a different way with a different type of man where they were switching things off. They were putting double teams again at Tyrese Maxey there in that fourth quarter. You needed somebody else. While Tobias Harris did have 9 points, give him the credit, 6 minutes and 10 seconds. He was 4 for 5 in the fourth quarter. But you needed more in that fourth quarter to help Tyrese Maxey out to close this one out.
Yeah. I mean, look, your second best player against Damian Giannis was Campaign. Like, back to Kyle's point, yeah, maybe the fouls weren't the reason they lost. The reason was talent, but they had so little margin for error because they have nobody really stepping up. Bad Kelly Oubre game through 3 quarters. It was a disaster of a Tobias Harris game. We were debating whether to put him in the headline for what felt like the 73rd time in a row. Ultimately, he made enough shots there in the 4th. Kyle brought it up while we were watching. When you give it to him late in clock and remove all decision-making from the process, he can look like a functional basketball player, and that happened a couple times there in the 4th quarter.
He shot one that was, he initially tried to hot potato it, and
Yeah,
Obama said, fuck that, you're taking it back, buddy. And then Tobias makes the 3. When you don't think,
I'm not taking
better.
that contested 3 with 2 seconds left on the clock. Here you go, buddy. It
Contract
went in.
year for me, too.
Yes. But when you're talking like that, like you need Max to be superhuman for 4 quarters instead of 3 quarters because you have no talent around him. That's where the foul calling would have came in. And it's not like you're begging for fouls. There were probably 4 or so trips to the line that should have happened.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they just ran out of gas. I thought Tyrese ran out of gas. I thought pretty much everyone outside of Tobias Harris, who again did absolutely nothing through 3 quarters of play and was actively harmful, outside of Tobias, everyone seemed like they ran out of gas in the 4th. And because you don't really force turnovers, because you don't really get offensive rebounds, you don't generate extra possessions, you have to make shots. Sixers didn't make shots, and they only got to the line 14 times. Tough to win a game in Milwaukee like that.
And it was tough too because they were up 83 to 78 at the end of the 3rd quarter, and Maxey had made 3 tough shots there, where 2 of them at least looked like he was fouled. 2, I'll give him 2 where I thought he was fouled. The one where he made a great move, pulled the ball over Bobby Porter, switched to the other side, made a runner. You probably don't get that call, especially if they're not calling the other stuff. They're definitely not going to give him that one. But the last 2, he made it. And you could see as soon as he got to about 5 seconds left, Nick Nurse took him out for defensive purposes. Bucks had the ball. That was going to be the final shot. And he was on the bench, and you could tell that he was gassed, that he was tired at that point. So he needed that break. They cannot have a breakdown either at the end of that 3rd quarter where Giannis is doing what he's doing, making a move, going downhill, stops at the free throw line, and Pat Connaughton is wide open underneath the basket for an easy, really uncontested layup to cut the lead to 3. Every point counted, and they could not have those breakdowns like they did at the end of the 3rd quarter to allow that to happen. And then what happens in the 4th quarter? They really go on that run there in that 4th to get things going, to go on that run, to really, again, just separate themselves from the Sixers to take that lead that they did. And they never looked back. Yes, the Sixers got things close, but when Maxey did come back into the game, it was they battled, they kept playing, they didn't quit, but they just ultimately did not have enough, and the gas tank became empty. They were on E, and they were just sputtering at that point. And when things are going the other way with Milwaukee, there was really not much you can do about that one. This would have been another nice one to steal from the Milwaukee Bucks.
What did you guys think of the minute distribution tonight? Because I think I thought this in the moment, and I'm looking over the box score now, and it kind of really sinks in. Campaign was 5 of 6 and was on fire.
Only played 12
field.
minutes.
Played under 12 minutes. Mm-hmm. Buddy Hield had one of his better shooting nights in a while. He played 20 minutes, and he didn't check into that game in the second half until, I want to say, like the 3:30 mark. I'd have to double check that, but didn't come in till late. Nurse is clearly limiting his role quite a bit more. And look, there are reasons for that lately, but an example of kind of what I'm talking about when I get on him for Tobias is like the default play a bunch of minutes guy. Tobias sucked for most of this game, and he still has the luxury of, well, he's getting the closing minutes and was able to have that nice moment because he is afforded that. Meanwhile, other guys played well. And like, look, if you take the names out of it, if this exact minute distribution happened and you watched that game and Doc Rivers was the one who allotted these minutes, people will be losing their fucking minds over how this was handled. So I have tried to point this out throughout the year when this happens. Like, Nurse is as reliant on his rotations and his guys as most other coaches. So I'm not saying that it's worth a whole lot of frustration after one game, but I am a little surprised he didn't ride the hot hands harder than he did.
Well, as soon as you mentioned it, I went right to the 3rd quarter box, and Tobias played 7 minutes and 6 seconds. I bring that up because I also go down the campaign. He played 0 minutes and 0 seconds in that 3rd quarter. Now, Tobias wasn't good. He was 1 for 3 in that 706. He had 3 points on one made three-pointer there. That was a pretty early one where Maxey found him for that three-pointer. But that was important because now going into the fourth, while he did score 9 points in the fourth quarter, at that point we were like, all right, here we go again.
Yeah.
This guy can't play in the fourth quarter. What happens, KJ Martin comes out and he gets a few of those minutes there early and he looks decent out there, makes a driving layup, a good defensive possession, had a tough one called on him against Giannis the other way, but again, it's Giannis against KJ Martin. That's going to go one way. But in that fourth quarter, Harris again plays 6 minutes and 10 seconds. A lot of that is because he kept making shots there towards the end and campaigned 3 minutes and 18 seconds while he did make his lone shot for his 2 points. That's how much time he got in the second half after playing really well in the first. 3 minutes and 18 seconds.
I do think part of tonight, I think he probably wanted to have Tobias on the floor in part to help defend Giannis.
Yeah.
Really outside of Paul Reed, the Sixers had nobody who could match up with him. I think he also wanted to show some size to Dame as well. Like he had Kelly on him a lot. I think part of that was because, like I said, he wanted to show Dame some size, get someone who could go through screens a little bit. I think that's probably, and Kelly played 33 minutes and ended up with 9 points on 13 shots. And, he was not on his game in terms of his offensive productivity. But I think Nick wanted some size out there that may have extended Harris's and Oubre's minutes. But I do agree. More than how many minutes he get?
3:13 in the second half.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen, especially because he was really good. Like you really needed it. Like that offensive explosion you had from him, both from deep, some of those kisses off the glass, which were just gorgeous.
I was hooting and hollering when he made those shots off the glass.
Yeah. That lone two was the second one where you said he did it again. That was the lone bucket for campaign in the second half.
Yeah, and look, I understand Harris is one of the only wings / forwards that they have, right? And so if he doesn't play, you are making some sacrifices defensively. And I take the point that you guys are making regarding Giannis and wanting to throw size at him. That's completely reasonable. I do think to a degree it's just like I'll live with Giannis.
He's going to score,
right? Like he's going to score or he's going to get fouled one way or another. I'd have to really go back and watch it closely or look at the matchup stats to see, okay, who actually made a difference and all that, or who was on the floor and Giannis succeeded and vice versa. But you got to be able to score for this team. Because I think if we're trying to take a positive out of it, I think they defended pretty well as a group, given the opponent. Like Dame was not anonymous, but not really
7 for 16
impactful.
For 17 points.
17 points on 16 shots.
And Giannis had 7 turnovers. And I think that's part of it too. I think by putting some size on Giannis, you can then have your weak side, like Paul Reed, come over and help. You can have your wing players dig down, and maybe if you can hold him up on his initial surge, you have a chance to force him into some turnovers, and I think they tried to do that. So again, I'm just playing a little devil's advocate. Yeah. More often than not, and we just had another show on this the other day. Yeah, I'm in favor of cutting Tobias' minutes, and he was. And again, I think the fourth quarter put a little bit of lipstick on this pig. Yep. He was wretched there through 3 quarters, like actively destructful. I don't want that to get lost in the box score. He was borderline unplayable again for most of this game.
I think the last possession before we get to what we have to do. I think the last
I was
possession
about to say I had a great transition and Devon just smoked it. So way to go, buddy.
Go ahead.
No. Make your point now. I'll just see if I can think of
Kyle.
one.
Get into that natural transition.
Transition. It was just Harris had Lillard on one spot where he had him that entire right side and he passed the ball. Now Maxey did make the runner, but it was a more difficult shot than it needed to be because of what Harris should have done.
And he also had one where he had a drive going to his right and he had his defender, blocked off with his offhand, and all he had to do was pull up before Giannis got there, and he had a wide open shot, and he hesitated, kicked it out to the wing for like 3 seconds left through a ticking time bomb, and it was like, dude, just freaking attack. Like either pull up off the dribble or go all the way, try to get the line, do something. You look scared right now. But he did turn it around, so a little bit of credit for that. You want to go to your transition?
I'm just so upset about I was just going to flow right into it. Man. Just like ice cold Coors Light flows out of the bottles and cans when you really need it. Because, guys, sometimes you have the day-to-day annoyances. I don't know about all that. We also have the big problems in your life, like the Sixers being completely unable to win without Joel Embiid. But there is a chiller way, a better way to approach those day-to-day problems. Get an ice-cold Coors Light, because with Coors Light, you know you're getting an ice-cold beer when the mountains turn blue on the bottles and cans and hit that perfect temperature. These guys found out earlier today, I will be going on a little mini vacation in the coming weeks.
Much needed.
Hitting an all-inclusive, catching some rays. I'm way too pale to be going down to where I'm going down to, but we're going to see how that goes. And guys, when I come off of that beach, I'm looking forward to looking in a cooler, walking up to the bar, maybe swimming up to a bar, asking for an ice-cold Coors Light and choosing chill with the blue mountains on that can. I know I'll get cold layered, cold filtered, cold packaged beer for a smooth finish, mountain cold refreshment that I can bring with me to the lovely sands of Punta Cana. When you choose to rise above it all, you can choose chill just like I will. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
And if you want to save up some money so you can go on an award-winning vacation like our award-winning colleague over here.
Stealing from AA Ron in the chat.
I stealing from AA Ron. It was a good little transition there. We want to tell you about Rocket Money. We all want to make sure that you get the most out of your money and that you're not wasting money on unnecessary subscriptions. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. You can see all of your subscriptions in one place, and if you see something you don't want, you can cancel it with a tap, and you never have to get on the phone with customer service. They'll even try to get you a refund for the last couple months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. That's rocketmoney.com/PHLY. rocketmoney.com/PHLY.
Is that rocketmoney.com/PHLY?
It is.
They really emphasize that,
Yeah.
just gets stuck in my head. It's almost like the purpose of the ad.
It is almost the purpose of advertising, yes.
Al jumps in in the chat before we get to our super chats. He says, and I wanted to bring this up because Al, we said the same thing during the game, especially on that second one, because he missed it. Why is Tobias Harris shooting technical fouls? Well, he's shooting them because he shoots 89% from the free throw line.
That's a number I just don't
care
about.
But it doesn't matter when you have Tyrese Maxey and even Kyle Lowry on the floor. You give the ball to your guards and let them shoot the technical foul. That second one, he made the first one on the defensive 3 second, but when there was a technical foul in that second half, he shot it and missed it. And we were like, no words, just look at each other, because that's what it was.
Yeah, and so that's probably a good jumping off point for it. I don't want to give Tobias the kid glove treatment because he had a good stretch in the fourth. He was horrible for most of that game. And like the defensive stuff notwithstanding, I do think he was helpful there tonight, made a few nice plays, both at the rim and with his hands. But I just think it is so glaringly obvious that he is in his own head and cannot get out of it. Like the possession that you and I yelled about a lot, Devon, he had Dame Lillard on his hip the entire baseline to attack, and no help was really available to come. And he never even thought to try to go at Dame. Didn't turn his head, didn't face up, didn't dribble at him, just sat there and burned seconds off the shot clock. And those possessions have been much more common than the makes that we got in the fourth quarter from him. I also think, excuse me, got a lot of coughs tonight. I'm just choking on another awful performance from him. I think that one of the worst stretches of the game was that technical free throw that he missed.
Yep.
He follows it up immediately with a 5-second violation.
Unbelievable.
And then I think right after that, he also missed like a 6-footer on the possession after that. So you go from missed tech, so you give away a free point. The next possession that you get, all right, you just give that away without even attempting a shot or getting it on the floor, let alone attempting a shot. And then you burn the next possession. Like, I'm just so sick of the amount of time that is spent where it's like, hey, they really got to get him going. Like, maybe no, they don't, because the offense was beyond functional for the first 2 quarters of this game with Harris basically a complete afterthought. So I just reject the I understand and mostly agree with the idea that he's got to get going at some point. I do not agree that you have to actually design stuff for him. He needs to make spot up shots and attack closeouts and do things within the flow of the offense, or I just do not care about him.
See, but that's exactly why the technical free throw doesn't bother me. Because maybe just seeing the ball go through helps, and you don't have to waste a possession or waste 10 seconds in a possession to try to see if you can get him going. You just give him a free throw that he does make those usually, so I don't really have a problem with that.
Usually, yeah, but he also has a tendency where we've all watched him. I'd love to actually
track this and see like what each player's shooting percentages on it is, because remember, like JJ, it felt like JJ always missed a technical free throw, even though he shot like 90% on everything else. I would be curious if there is.
But the thing for me is, it's not just the technicals, because as you said, tracking. I don't have anything to back it up. It's just more the eye test and watching for 5 years. You would watch him, especially in the guts of the game. There's certain situations where I would sit there and I would watch it, and I would look to whoever is near me and says he's going to split these right here in the second half, because you just get comfortable with seeing who he is and understanding who he is, just as much as I can sit there and say, all right, Joel Embiid is going to have the first bucket of the game because I know what Doc Rivers is going to do, what play he's going to call there. Same thing with Tobias Harris, where you watch him and it's not just the technicals, it's also free throws late in the game where it's inevitable that he's going to split those in a really important part. Now, seeing the ball go through it, the net, yes, absolutely. I totally get it, and that's part of the reason with the 89%. But it's also, you need that point too, because that could matter in a close game against the Milwaukee Bucks on the road. And at that point, they were up. They were still in the lead when he missed that free throw. And when we're talking about, okay, Giannis has that travel, they're down maybe 2 at that point instead of 3. And maybe he chokes a little bit because he's not a great free throw shooter. Instead of going 14 for 18 tonight, maybe he misses one or both at the free throw line because the game is a little bit tighter for him. You never know how those things are going to go. I do understand that is maybe a reason why Nick Nurse does that, but I didn't think that was the right call once again when it came to that technical free throw, even though he made the one earlier in the game. And Babajide says here, in terms of what you're saying about how he had another one of those Tobias nights, Babajide in the Super Chat says, Tobias is an empty calorie scorer. Pretty much.
They got too many of those on this team, quite frankly. Kelly Oubre.
You said it.
Well, said it
I say it all the time, but you said it this very specific time.
I was just, I didn't love the Kelly performance, but I will say that tonight was at least within the realm of acceptance for me on him, where he just missed threes. Like, none of the threes that he took were shots that I looked at and was like, oh my God, Kelly, what the hell are you doing? It was, okay, that's a decent catch and shoot look, and you live with the results. He's one of the better offensive players they have right now. It is what it is. Like, the attempts at the rim are a bit of a different story. His desire to dunk every single thing going right, despite the fact that he has no right hand.
That last one he should have reversed and made it with his left, because he would have been on the other side of the basket.
He's certainly athletic enough to go and reverse it on a play like that. So, I'm just going to... I will use the kid gloves on Kelly Oubre because he's played pretty well lately, and not a whole lot to get mad about, I don't think.
No, not a lot. And there were a few plays there. We were watching that picked up a really bad foul after the timeout or a dead ball. I think it was a timeout, and it was right there at half court with Dame Lillard. He just fouled, and it was like, why are you doing that right now?
Yeah.
I understand you want to get physical with him, but don't foul him. And then he had a really good play where he did knock the ball away on that same possession. They almost had the steal, but Brook Lopez snatched it out of the air, and they wound up missing the shot anyway. But for the most part, this was an off Kelly Oubre night after seeing some pretty good performances in general from him over the last couple of games. They needed a much better one again tonight against the basketball team like the Milwaukee Bucks. They needed a better Oubre performance there.
Yeah, going back to Tobias, though, because this is something I remember when Rich and I were sitting on press row when they first made the trade, my first reaction, the first game he plays, that's low-calorie Melo. That's his style of play. That's how he wants to play. And you look at him, I was never a huge Melo fan, and you watch, respective to, I think, the way he was perceived. Like, he was obviously an incredible basketball player. But when you're a low-calorie version of that, he doesn't get to the free throw line. He has tunnel vision, doesn't make assists, and he's a low-volume three-point shooter, and all of that leads to and he takes like a long time to get to his shots. All of that really drags down your offense. So for a player who has been a 20-point-per-game scorer for a long time, yes, his impact has been far less than that. And I think Tobias Harris has always been sort of like my, the guy that I point to when I say this is why advanced stats exist. This is why things like VORP or box plus minus, because they have always sort of hated him. And for me, the use of advanced stats...
Fuck you, buddy. We're making stats to show you don't matter that much.
No. But like the usage of advanced stats to me is like, all right, I feel like this guy has a good reputation. Do these stats indicate I'm missing something? Should I go dig deeper into this? Or maybe the stats are just wrong because they are occasionally wrong. But I think with Tobias, when you start digging into it, yeah, there are flaws in his game that makes his impact far less than what his traditional counting stats would suggest. So that's a long-winded way of me saying, yes, I've always sort of agreed that he is an empty calorie scorer, which is why that contract has been such an abomination for so long.
Well, you know who's not an abomination and is serving up goodness every single day?
Serving up goodness?
Our friends at Bagels & Co., who offers huge Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philadelphia. I eat bagels several days a week. And Bagels & Co. offers an average of around 15 to 20 types of bagels, and they rotate those seasonally. It is St. Patrick's Day weekend coming up this weekend, so I can imagine you could probably get a green bagel if you head into any of your local Bagels & Co. So we also have Easter, some other important holidays coming up. And if you're a cream cheese guy or gal like I am, they offer 30 different flavors of cream cheese. They rotate them throughout the year. Themed cream cheeses as well as those bagels. You can get a Sixers-themed cream cheese at any of those local locations and all the other local sports teams like the Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, and perhaps the Union, although I can't confirm that one. And just as important as that variety is the affordability. Bagels & Co. has kept their price down so you can be an everyday customer, not just someone who comes in for a weekend splurge, as all of us are looking at those credit card bills, fighting inflation, looking at what groceries cost. Your friends at Bagels & Co. have your back. You can get a premium coffee in addition to that bagel at a superior price to most national brands and chains. So for the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philadelphia, head to www.thebagelsandco.com. thebagelsandco.com/store-locator. I somehow tongue-twisted myself to find the closest Bagels & Co. near you.
It's only the URL on the call to action, Kyle. Not an important part of the ad read at all.
The people know where to go for their bagels, I promise.
So there are always bagels in the chat. They know. And when you talk about affordable prices and you're looking to have a good time out, maybe it's a comedy show, theater, football with all the moves that are happening around the pro football scene there, maybe baseball coming up at the end of the month and you want to be in the stadium for the start of the baseball season, certainly basketball, I have the place to go for you, and that is with our friends from Game Time. Recently, I was telling the guys here and some of you out there and telling Bree, of course, that my daughters were talking about going to see Drake, and he's going to be at Penn State. And, hey, that's a far ride, going to be far ride up there to Penn State. But they wanted to know what the ticket prices were going to be. I said, hold up, stop everything. Let me get to the phone right here because I have the Game Time app. And with the Game Time app, I knew that buying tickets to your favorite events like this one shouldn't be stressful. So with Game Time, it's very fast, it's easy, and it's a very, very, very easy way to buy tickets for all the events that we just talked about with killer deals on last-minute tickets. And their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun that you'll have. There's a show going to be in South Philadelphia in August at the Center, and so many people keep talking about, I have to go get these tickets. I have to get these tickets for this concert. And I keep telling them, check Game Time. Don't go to whatever spot you're used to. That's not better than this. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, like that concert in August. Images of the seat view so you can get a view of where the stage is and what you're going to be looking at there, right there from the performer. Flash deals on last-minute tickets. Lowest price guarantee, as mentioned, event cancellation protection, job loss protection as well. So forget planning months in advance, even though with this concert, that one, that's a big ticket. You might want to look ahead. But if you're also looking to maybe go see the basketball team for the 2-game stretch that they're going to be home on Saturday and Monday before a 4-game West Coast trip, you might want to forget about the planning months in advance for that one and look at Game Time with the deals on tickets right up to the day of the event on Saturday as they host Charlotte. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for all the sports events, again, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price if you find the tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's get to some of these super chats here from our good friends, starting with Devon.
Devon coming in hot tonight.
AKA Schoolboy Beats. Let's get to the very first one. Bad calls. Nurse going back to the starters and missed free throw. We talking about that one missed free throw or missed free throws because they missed 4 of them?
No.
I'd imagine it
has to be the Tobias one.
Yeah. Maybe,
I mean,
I don't know.
honestly, I would imagine it's all of them. Like Max
I
going
think it's
1
probably
for
all
3
of
as well. Like that hurt.
Yeah.
Sorry to everyone for all the coughing tonight. I don't know what's going on
Yeah, you
over
got the
here.
water. Go get some more water, man. You all good.
Drank the whole damn thing. What do you want from me? Another one from Devon says the KJ Reed duo made it tough on Giannis. Why, Nurse?
Well,
I do think KJ played well tonight. I give him credit for when he's at his worst, it's a headless chicken act. Like he's a great athlete who I think sometimes knows where he needs to be. I thought his reads were much sharper tonight. I thought he kept his hands back, which is a big problem for him. He takes a lot of stupid fouls. So if they were going to go away from Harris, I would have liked to see maybe some more KJ Reed, but I am not on a macro level a KJ guy. So
Yeah.
I can't sit here and be like, yeah, they really should have rode that KJ guy out there tonight.
Yeah, and I think like what I was talking about earlier is giving like Giannis, putting a wing on Giannis and bringing Reed over for help side. I think that was probably working at its best when KJ was in there because KJ is a little stronger physically. But you can't. Like I'm not. KJ played 14 minutes. There are very few games going to be like, man, KJ really should have gotten more minutes. Mm-hmm. He's just so limited in his offensive game and decision making. I think they got what they could out of him. They played well. They won his minutes by +8, so they certainly played well in that time. But I'm not sure if that you could have expected that to extend out throughout the rest of the game as Kyle dies over here on the side.
Don't think Nurse plays Kai Jones. Don't think Nurse is going to play Kai Jones. He's going to get the Baisley treatment. That is from Devon as well. We'll talk more about Kai Jones tomorrow, 10-day contract, reporter from Adrian Wojnarowski. We spoke about him when the news came out about a week or so ago. So we'll talk a little bit more about that tonight. We wanted to focus on this game and what happened in this one because they were so close. It wasn't a blowout. They actually had a chance. But we'll see what he does. And look, I mean, honestly, he's going to play maybe or at least maybe be in uniform for the first time in the Sixers uniform against his former team, the Charlotte Hornets, on Saturday. Next up, Devon, one more. When Tobias misses layups, I think of Along Came Polly.
You're talking about when Philip Seymour Hoffman is pulling the J? I don't remember all the basketball from that movie,
right?
But that's the iconic image. Is rest in peace to Seymour Hoffman, by the way.
One of the best.
Great actor.
One of the best.
Even in movies that I thought sucked, I was like, man, that guy fucking rocks.
Yeah. He was tough. One of the what was the Mission Impossible? Mission Impossible 3. He was fantastic as the villain.
I forgot of that. I saw that so long ago that I forgot he was one of the main bad guys.
All right, Jake M says Mo Bamba constantly setting the screen and not rolling for Maxey, forcing him to give the ball up, lost the game. Just let him ISO.
Kyle, would you like to take this one?
I kept Jake, you and I are like, some connected brain waves going on there. I was complaining about that through the whole game, and I wouldn't put this on Bamba. I think this is probably a team-wide, and including the coaching staff issue, where I get like trying to force switches and stuff. Like if you can get Tyrese on an island against Brook Lopez and just punish the foot speed, great. Or you want to try to game the matchups a little bit. But it became clear as the game wore on that really what you were doing by setting a screen is just allowing them to show and hedge against pick and rolls. And they were forcing Tyrese back closer to half court, and they're putting it where it should be a 4-on-3. But because it is Bamba, as Jake points out, it's not a 4-on-3 because Bamba's not catching the pass and like, I'm going downhill and attacking. He's catching it and just standing there. And so then it just becomes you wasted 6 to 8 seconds setting that up, and you have to recycle it when, look, whether it was Pat Bev, Pat Connaughton, AJ Green, any one of the Jay Crowder, none of those guys could stay in front of Tyrese on a regular basis. So as simplistic as it is, I would have liked to see more Tyrese in isolation, just ask him to beat one-on-one matchups, spread the floor, space it out. If you have to ask Bamba, even Paul Reed, to hit some threes to keep the defense honest, and now look, great. Paul hit a 3 tonight. Bamba hit a 3 tonight. You live with that. But they lost the plot a little bit on this.
Yeah, and there was another play that we talked about when they went into that zone Milwaukee did, and Bamba was in the game in the fourth quarter. The right play was for him in the middle of that zone to, of course, be the outlet man, but he couldn't make the decision. He wasn't even looking at the basket. He was looking to pass the ball as soon as he caught it, instead of being Nick Batum like we've seen in the past in the middle of that zone to be that connective piece, whether it's around the perimeter or someone cutting along the baseline, or even Nick Batum with a little runner floater right there at that rim. So Mo Bamba, not all bad tonight, but certainly on those situations, you were just looking at it saying, get out of the way, man. Just let him go.
Not all bad, but also I would be happy be happy to see Kai Jones play instead of him. And I'm not exactly Mr. Kai Jones super fan over here.
Yeah. Well, final one for us here on the Super Chat. Jay of the Jungle. Giannis plays like I played in 6th grade before everyone else had their growth spurt. Refs let me get away with travels too. I was 5'8", still 5'8".
Bro, you were 5'8" in 6th grade? That's pretty...
Yeah.
You throw some weight around on the block, just throw it into you and just throw some elbows into people. I had some big friends back then. I actually... It's all relative because I can't think of what 5'8" would feel like when I was in 6th grade. Like, what would that look like? You lose all perspective as you get older, I guess.
Some tall dudes then. Well, not hard to be when I'm there, but, there's some tall dudes in the 6th grade.
That's what I'm saying. Now that I'm like 6'3" or whatever, you think of 5'8", it's like, oh, that guy's 5'8". I know what that looks like, but I don't even know how tall I was.
I'm trying to think.
Then.
I think in 9th grade, I was like 5'10".
Yeah, I've never gotten there.
But I don't remember going back that long. It's been a year or two. It's been a year or two.
I'm pretty sure I hit 5'8" in like 8th grade.
Yeah,
and that's when I
right.
grew 6 inches in the span of like 2 months. And my body said, what the fuck is wrong with you? What is going on? And felt like I was falling apart for a little bit there.
Yeah, 10th grade, I was like, it's not happening.
You say that, but honestly, one of my good buddies I grew up with, so I have a tall group of friends from my hometown in general. And it was like the shortest guy was probably like 5'8", 5'10", whatever. And there was another friend who was 5'5", 5'6" until senior year of high school. Now he's like 6'5",
yeah,
and grew like a fucking weed final year of high school out of nowhere.
MJ's a famous one, right? Everyone brings up like, oh, he was cut from his varsity team. Well, he was cut because he was like 5'10", and then he grew like 6 inches the next year, and he made the team. So like it can certainly get a late growth spurt. But,
well, like Anthony Davis is the best example, probably.
It could still happen, buddy.
It might
still happen.
Yeah,
Anthony Davis was a guard until he was 6'11".
Yeah, but don't worry, I settled in. I was fine. I got over it. Mom, don't worry. Dad, it's all good. No problems. I accepted it for what it was.
No hard feelings.
No hard feelings. So my nephew started
Maybe
growing,
a few hard
and they're like,
feelings, I
Uncle D,
don't
I'm like, my man, it's not hard to be. That's not hard to be. Don't worry about passing me. Sorry to my daughters too. It just was what it was as it was happening. Well, look, that'll do it for us here tonight. We'll end on that note. On that note at 5-6. We'll end on that note right there. But we have a lot of people to thank. We'll be back tomorrow at 2:30 on the non-game day as the Sixers come back home, take on the Charlotte Hornets on Saturday. They have a 2-game series at home, Charlotte, and then on Monday, Miami. That Miami game is going to be important too because they're right there with the Sixers. So we'll talk about that as we get there. But tomorrow, 2:30, we'll get into Kai Jones and so much more. We have a lot of people to thank. What's going on? Coach says, yes, all my cousins took all the height. So
hold on. First person I want to shout out is Winona, who unblocked me on Twitter and tweeted at me just to say hello and that we're all good. So thank you, Winona, for unblocking me. I still don't know what I did in the first place. But as I said earlier, all love, and it's definitely all love because we see you here all the time. So shout out to Winona first and foremost. Now shout outs to everybody else, well, at least most everybody else. Jay the Jungle, James Meehan, Bootzilla,
Boots,
Jay, who said he's going to give me work in a pickup game. You probably could. I don't know. Maybe you're.
Yeah, I was going to say, we give Devon grief for, the height thing, but like he would smoke us on a basketball court. I'm confident in that. Shout
out to Noob, Coach Lowell Ricketts, Cannoli, Jay the Jungle, who, by the way, if you are not a Discord member or a diehard, Jay the Jungle finally joined our Discord tonight.
Welcome, Jay.
Welcome to Jay. He was already getting active night one in the Discord, having a good time. Shout out to Prophet. Shout out to AA Ron.
AA Ron, what up?
Another Discord member. Al, the 2-minute warning in the house.
What up, Al?
I was going to say, there was a delay there.
I was waiting.
I was nervous. Prophet 1. We got Neil. We got Matt Webster, Jake M, Stuart Rhodes. Who else we got? Alex. Who are our super chatters tonight? We had Davon, a.k.a. Schoolboy Beats, was really hitting us up. We got Baba DJ. Got Jake M, I think I already said. Mm-hmm. Jay the Jungle, once again. I'm still scrolling up, fellas. Stuart Rhodes in the building.
What up, Stu?
Our guy, Vincent Pellegrini.
Vinny.
Derek Bodner, who the hell's that guy? Trons. Phil W, my number one biggest hater in the chat. Love you, Phil. There was no Money Mar tonight, much to my surprise. I thought this would be a nice victory lap
RJ
game
either?
for the Troll. No RJ.
All right.
Trolls did not come out.
They'll be here tomorrow.
But they'll be back. So we want you to be back too. The easiest way to make it back, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And if you hit the thumbs up button, maybe I won't cough through half the show tomorrow afternoon. And I know you don't want to hear me coughing once again. So apologies for that. We'll see you Friday, 2:30. Be there, be square. And then we got one more post-game show on Saturday night. Take it easy, everybody.
We all silly like the mayor.